I'd like if you would please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to
to
the flag of the United
United
States
States of
of
America,
America
and
and
to
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for all.
as we've most of us been doing close to 50, 60 years or more. Just one second. I'm kind of tending things as well as running a meeting. I'm going to.
What time is it, 6:07 or 6:06?
Mine says 7.
Now 6:07.
Call to order at 6:05.
Yes. Okay. I've got a.
9:05 for me.
Picky.
If you folks want to visit for just a moment, there's something I have to pull up here real quick.
Okay.
So where is everybody?
Olympia?
Oh, okay. Where else?
Mostly. Where are you, Doug?
I'm in Vermont.
Vermont.
Ah, see, 3-hour difference. Bob, where are you?
Port Townsend.
Okay, well, we're going to save the secretary's report as late as we need to, so we may as well get started with the treasurer's report in just a moment. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and joining with us, and the meeting satisfies certain legal requirements that we have, at least that are in our bylaws, and gives you a sense of where we are and what we've been doing generally. But part of that is the financial side of us and what we've accomplished since this organization started, 19 years ago. But this is a look back at the last year, and you've all had minutes, or excuse me, the treasurer's materials sent to you today, and I'd like to turn the meeting over now to Treasurer Gary Mers.
Thank you, Charlie. Well, I'm happy to report that the finances are as healthy as they've ever been since I've been doing this for, I think, about 5 years, and maybe longer. Time flies when you're having fun. And so if you look at the profit and loss statement, it's a comparison, and that's what us accountants typically do, is like to have at least point of reference, so you compare the same period of time, so the 12-month period. The actual year end of the association is August 31st, but it's I've just been doing the reports based on a calendar year, just so it's a more regular, what people are used to. But when we do the tax returns and all that stuff, it's based on a August 31st year end. But we're capturing 12 months. So the revenue is very healthy in terms of contributions for the scholarship fund. And the other main source of revenue is, so that was, for the past 2 years, 2020 and 2021 has been consistent, almost, within $1,000. So like you can see it's 23,000. It was a little bit higher, $900 higher in 2020. But actually in January, we've gotten a lot more scholarship funds coming in, and I did not include the receipts for January of 2022. But if I was to pick you know, do an August 31st year end, and we can get a better picture of it. So it's actually up if I include January, if I use this period of time of, including January. Charlie did a letter, and asked for more scholarship funds, and it was very successful. The money's really been rolling in more than I've ever seen it. So the tone of that letter was in such a way that I think it really got people to want to contribute more. And our membership dues is up as well. So if you go down to the program income membership dues, you can see that that's up almost $3,000 from 2020 to 2021. So it's $8,900 versus $5,900. And you can see that our normal expenses are, they're right, like around 12,000. So in 2020, it was 11,000 and 13,000 in 2021. But you really can't include the scholarship. So I would, when you look at what our kind of our overhead is for the year, I would not use the total expenses of 11,260 for 2020 and 13,129.93 for 21. I would probably just back out the scholarships because that's really related to the scholarship contributions. And we have the money invested at Edward Jones to fund the scholarships. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about, is that I think we should probably make a transfer out of the checking account into the investment account, because we don't need that much in the checking account, that we can have it working for us, because most of the amounts that have accumulated in the last couple of years is a result of that extra money coming in for the scholarships. So I'm ready to move on from the profit and loss statement and go to the balance sheet. And you can look at a profit and loss statement as kind of like a video of like a Netflix video of how we did for the year. Whereas the balance sheet is kind of a snapshot of what we have and what we owe. There's no real liabilities, but it's just kind of assets and then equity, which is really what we call in a nonprofit organization. It's just called net assets. So is there any questions about the profit and loss statement? I'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay. I'll move on to the balance sheet.
Charlie, you're muted.
This one, pardon?
Charlie's talking, but he's muted.
You go ahead, Gary. I didn't want to cut you off.
Okay. So is there any questions on the profit and loss statement?
Not for me.
Did we actually get the balance sheet? I got the P&L.
They were both sent.
It's attached
There's
with
2
it,
pages.
right? So it's in the same attachment. It's the same PDF
Yeah.
underneath it.
It's 2 pages, Dwight.
Oops, sorry.
All right. So moving balance sheet, what we did is compare it like what it was at the end of the year in 2020 and the end of the year, calendar year of 2021. And Anna, you might bear me out, but I think there's probably another at least $3,000 or $4,000 in cash that's come in January. So it's actually right now today it's even higher than that. So that credit union account, Twin Star Credit Union, that's the one that I think we should move.
Yeah,
You know, I'm thinking probably 40. I'm thinking 45,000.
on the
Call the Edward Jones.
21st of January, I put in 1835. And, oh, come on, where is it? And on the 10th, I put in 11,615. And I have 345 sitting on my desk.
Okay. So I'm thinking that we may want to go even as high as 50,000 transfer, and that's kind of what what I'm proposing.
Yeah, well,
Or maybe even just let's leave this much in the Twin Star account to cover the scholarships and the stuff that we know that's coming for the next year, the next 12 months or so. So the scholarship now $6,000 a year.
I have a question,
And then
Gary.
Sure.
We got a thing in the mailbox from Allison Holder, who is at Northwest University in Kirkland. That's the verification of enrollment. We did send the money to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why they're sending
Yeah.
this now. She started last August.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
it's just-
know I haven't gotten from the none of the checks were returned, or I haven't get any calls for the scholarships.
Yeah. Maybe this is just something
you
new the
just wanna-
school's doing,
Yeah,
because it looks like the office over at the high school is telling the registrar at the colleges that they need to send this back to us.
so she didn't register? Is that kind of
No,
the,
she did. She did. I'm just saying that except that it says the funds will be released upon receipt of the verification enrollment, which, as far as I know, you already pay all these things, right? You sent out 6,000, right? Yep. Okay. So I don't know why they're sending these things. They hadn't done it in the past. Charlie?
if you wanted,
Yeah, I'm here, and I also want to mention that Barbara Ruth, our secretary, has joined us. And for Barbara, we are in the treasurer's report now.
Thank you.
Charlie?
Yes, go ahead.
Did you pay for those returns?
I did. The ones that showed up in the box.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So it's 36.54 if you want Gary to pay you back. Or did you put it on the card?
That is on the company card.
Okay, so can I get rid of this piece of paper?
As far as I'm concerned, unless Gary needs it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Anything,
That's all I have.
Gary? Any other questions for Gary?
Charlie,
Go ahead.
do we need a motion to move monies into the, from the checking and savings, whatever the amount?
I think it would be appropriate. Gary suggested two different levels of, I think I heard $40,000 and $50,000. Is there a motion that anyone would like to make regarding movement of those funds into scholarship backed securities, or securities that back our scholarships?
Does Gary have, just know which one he would rather move? Which amount?
You could compromise and say 45,000. Mr. President,
Second that motion.
Skip, go ahead.
well, point of order, I'm just trying to figure out whether we're moving 40, 45, or 50. So
That's what I was asking.
I think just a, point of order, let's make sure the motion is clear so we know that what we'll be voting upon. And I think a compromise might be 45,000. So with deference to the maker of the motion, I'd move or clarify that the motion be $45,000 moved from that checking account to the scholarship generated accounts with
Edward Jones.
Edward Jones. Thank you.
So there's the motion. Do we have a second?
I do.
Okay, good. Further discussion.
Seems to make sense. I think we rely upon our treasurer, and I appreciate the contributions that are coming in. And I don't know if it was your magic touch, Charlie, or what it worked, but all of a sudden we had another good year. So Gary Mers, thank you for being the treasurer and making that all stick around.
Skip, I think it's worth mentioning that in the letter that went out, we've been doing this a lot of years, and I've sat around and interviewed many candidates that we've helped out, and that's a view on the world that few get, and I wanted people to understand what that was about, and apparently people responded to that. So
Good deal. Do it again.
So we have a motion moved and seconded. Any further discussion before we take a vote? Question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Well, Gary, there's a motion. What more do you have for us?
That's pretty much it. I guess I would like to just talk to I'm trying to think of because we haven't really seen each other in person, the board member that's handling the website and all that. I do have a little bit of it's hard for me when the money is now coming into the account that's directly off the website, which is really cool, but I don't know what it's for, like if it's membership due, how to classify it. In my business, we like to know what that revenue is, so we like to put it in, basically our money comes in, we get a little bit from the sale of sweatshirts, but it's either dues or it's scholarship contributions. So I'm just wondering if there's some way that so right now it just shows up on the bank statement as an unidentified deposit because Anna she's not involved with those deposits, because they don't come through the regular channels where somebody's writing a check and mailing it in.
Dave does tell me about them, and I've only seen 2.
Okay.
This is a good question to bring up with our webmaster who is unable to attend tonight's meeting. He called me in advance, but I'd like to go ahead.
I can just follow up. I can just follow up with him then.
Okay.
For the future, but that's the only thing that's that's any kind of an issue. I'm done. That's the report.
Okay, thank you. For the benefit of those who are haven't been with us working these things on a monthly basis, just to let you know, we have a scholarship. Oh, here comes Carol Watson. We have a scholarship endowment, and then we have our annual obligations. The endowment, I'd say we're probably about 60% toward what I think is the full funding rate for the number of scholarships and amounts that we have. So we raise money every year, and we're doing 2 things. We're putting money into the actual scholarships, and we're putting money toward the endowment. So, we've made quite a bit of progress in 19 years, but we really have a lot more to go. I think we're giving 5, 6 scholarships every year now, and so I've got. I'm hearing an echo.
2000, it's 5.
I'm going to mute somebody who's echoing here. Carol, do you have more than one device on? Carol, can you sign out of? You have 2 devices going. Can you sign out of one of those? Okay, that was the one that had your camera on. Okay, so I see Carol, you're still on. And okay, so you're on, but I don't have a camera, but that's okay. We'll just keep going here. Anything else on treasurer's business?
Mr. President, I would move the acceptance of the profit and loss previous year comparison through 2021 and the treasurer's report entitled Balance Sheet Previous Year Comparison prepared by Gary Mers.
Okay, there's the motion. Second to that?
I second.
Okay, state your name.
Claudia Kuykendall.
Okay. And so do we need discussion on this or can we just go? All those in favor of the motion to receive the treasurer's report that we've discussed here, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Carried. Okay. Well, Gary, thank you for all your work. I know you've been watching a lot of things, so thank you for that.
You betcha.
Okay. I'm bouncing between different windows here. I'd like to move us. Oh, wait a minute. We skipped secretary's report. I'd like to pick that up now. You've all received secretary's report from a year ago from our secretary, Barbara Ruth. And Barbara, anything you'd mention about these as we prepare for a vote?
No.
Okay, do we have any additions or corrections?
Mr. President, I'd move the acceptance and the approval of the 2021 annual membership meeting minutes that were prepared and like to thank Barbara for that preparation.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Okay, good. Thank you. And thank you, Barb, for putting that together. Okay, moving on, we have bylaws updates. You've all received the paper or the PDF version of the bylaws. Anything that is proposed for a change is in red. If it's being added, it's underlined. If it's being stricken out, it's strike through. So, are there any comments about the paper that's been put before you for the proposed changes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to accept these changes as are presented.
Mr. President, I'd move the acceptance and proposed changes to the Olympia High School Alumni Association bylaws. I'll speak to the motion after I receive a second.
And I'll second that.
I
All of it.
think I heard Brian's voice in there first.
So, Mr. Chairman, as to these changes, I appreciate Mr. Curtis working on these again this last year. And in particular, I appreciate Section 6 under Article 5 that talks about, unfortunately, the pandemic and health crisis conditions that allow us to hold these remotely as we are doing this evening. We had previously discussed this in our board meetings, and I find it most appropriate. The rest of the changes are really just cleanup with one exception, and that is significantly that there is a $60 3-year membership and all honorary memberships are extended to the inductees of the OHS Hall of Fame. So with that, I'd ask the members to vote in favor of the proposed bylaw changes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I think we can proceed. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Carried. Good. Okay, well, we're moving right along. Next on the agenda is the election of board positions. there are 3 positions that are up for election this year: secretary, faculty representative, and thirdly, the at-large board position. And for this part of our meeting, our bylaws stipulate that this should be presided over by our second vice president, and that is Skip Hauser.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I would like to identify that we are going to elect board positions for secretary, faculty representative, and an at-large position. I would open up the nominations for the position of secretary. Any nominations for the position of secretary?
I nominate Barbara Ruth.
Barbara Ruth has been nominated. I second that nomination. And any further nominations? Any further nominations? Second call, third and final call for any further nominations. Not hearing any further nominations, I move that the nominations be closed. Is there a second?
I second
Second.
that.
Nomination's been moved and seconded to close. There's one nominee for the position of secretary, and that is Barbara Ruth. All those in favor signify the vote of aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. All those opposed, same sign. It's unanimous. Barbara Ruth, congratulations again on your 10th or 12th term as secretary. Your service is much appreciated. Moving on now to the election of a faculty representative. Opening nominations for faculty representative. Are any of the nominations?
Nominate Bill Curtis.
It's
I
been
second
moved.
that.
Bill Curtis, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to nominate Bill Curtis as the faculty representative. Any further nominations? Second call, third and final call. Any further nominations for faculty representative? Not hearing any further nominations, I'd move to close the nominations. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the nominations. Having closed the nominations, one sole candidate still remains standing. Faculty representative nominee, Mr. Curtis. All those in favor signify the vote of aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Any opposed? All right, faculty representative emeritus, Mr. Curtis, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're not going to ask you to give a speech at this time, though. Now, moving to the last nominee and election of a board position, the at-large position. Are there any nominees for the at-large position?
Does Brian still want to do it?
Yes, Brian still wants to do it. He just doesn't know it.
Then I nominate Brian. Barnes.
All right.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to nominate Brian Barnes as the at-large representative, class of '88. Any further nominations? First call, second call, any further nominations? And final call, any further nominations for at-large position? And not hearing any, I move that the nominations be closed. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the nominations. There is one nominee, at-large position, Brian Barnes. All those in favor signify the vote of aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. And are there any nays? Mr. Barnes, it was very close, but I'm going to ask that the ballots be destroyed and that you be elected by acclamation. Thank you for your service. I give Brian a bad time. Brian and I are law partners in a newly formed law firm of Bud Bay Law. And he is the best and brightest in our law firm. So I'm glad to serve with you
Not
again.
Is this an advertisement?
Absolutely.
Brian will give you $1 later.
Yeah, we both continue to, pay our dues.
Did
All
Gary
right.
have the same opportunity?
Yes, Mr. President, with that, my duties have been concluded in the election of your officers for this year. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Skip.
Thank you, Skip. I appreciate your work, and thank you all for your service. Really, those are the big items for this meeting, but I would like to just open up, first of all, do we have any old business that this particular meeting should cover? And before I open that up, I'd like to mention that immediately following this annual membership meeting, same time, same channel, right here. Stay on. If you would like to attend the board meeting and just kind of watch through any of that, you're welcome. So with that, we're still in our annual membership meeting, and I would like to open and see if we have any old business to discuss for this meeting.
Mr. President, I just have one comment as to old business. The webmaster, and you heard about it, that we now have the ability to pay online, and that's increasing our cost. That was I think a little bit of a glaring omission in our organization, was not having a good website, not having a good organization there. And so I very much appreciate Dave's efforts. I know he's not on tonight, but to work remotely from California to make those things happen and bring us back into I guess the 21st century is appreciated. And I'm not technologically advanced or even savvy, but I appreciate those that are. So in this annual meeting, I just like to acknowledge him and his efforts, and not sure how we got him on the board, but whoever did that, much appreciated.
Thank you, Skip.
And I'd just like to, add to Skip's comment that Dave's been doing a fantastic job. And
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a bit technical, but I can't do that anymore. It's a little out of my domain anymore. So I just wanted to back that up.
For those that haven't been to our website, it's olympiahighalumni.com. You can see what we're all about there.
Did you
Okay.
ever find out why we couldn't get .org?
It was actually held, it was owned by a group that was convening about 1999, 2000. And I tried to reach out and ask for that from them, and I was getting no response. And so it's like, well, what do? Do you wait for that, or you just charge ahead with something that you can do? So that's what we did.
Yeah.
Any other old business? Hearing none, any new business for this meeting? And hearing none, well, I want to thank you all for being part of this annual membership meeting of the Olympia High School Alumni Association. And in just a moment, we will adjourn. But for the good of the order, are there any remarks anybody would like to make here?
I'm glad we had some new people.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
What's happening with reunions for the classes that were wiped out by the pandemic?
Ours
So
being some of them.
1970, 71, I think 72 have all been postponed.
Yeah.
72 has one planned
Okay.
where's the date? August 27th at the Country Club. But that's the only one. And 52 has stopped doing it.
Anna's class of 75 was robbed of the opportunity to have their meeting in 2020 because of COVID. And my class of 76, we'd had our reunion planned at the Country Club for a couple of years, well before COVID came up. And so we invited the class of 75 to join us, and we had ours last September. And, it was still underattended in general. And I'm really glad that we had two classes banded together like that, because the attendance from either one only class, it would be hard to have the financial viability of an event, in terms of what the costs are and so forth. But it was great to share that reunion with class of 75 this past year. Class of, there's a lot of classes. I've talked a little bit with people from the class of 77, so they're coming up on their 45 reunion, and You know, this idea of what the effects does pandemic have on your attendance, that's a real thing to think about. You know, if we hadn't already put down $1,000 on the country club, you know, we would have lost that. You know, we might have just blown this off at 45 years and said we'll wait for 50. But it's no small matter. We spent all last summer just hanging on every word of our state's executive as far as are we going to be allowed to. And so, you know, some people suggested we didn't, and a lot of people stayed away, but, you know, we just charged ahead and did it.
And I didn't hear anybody get sick,
Me either.
and we weren't wearing our masks most of that time.
Most people were not, right?
It's a good thing nobody got sick.
Yeah.
So any other remarks before we close? Hearing none, I want to again thank you all for being here tonight. And if you want to stay through to the board meeting, that's fine. I'm going to take about we'll keep the channel open here. I'm going to take about a 2-minute break to get a little bit of paperwork distributed that I need to do. I want to get an agenda out there for you. So